If you haven't read any of these books, you really need to.
Slide into your mind so silky. Up under the dawn we fly.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Tess, and today I'm going to be doing books that deserve more hype or that need to be read. I have found a pile of books that I just discovered while going to Barnes & Noble or the dollar store, which is actually a surprisingly really good place to buy books, or Target, things like that where I buy books, and I just don't really look for ones that people have recommended, but more of just like spend an hour or like 30 minutes just looking at the backs of all of the books and just deciding whether or not I think it would be a good story. I always look at the first sentence of a book or read the first chapter while I'm at the store just to decide whether or not I'd like it, but sometimes I just go in blind and just buy it based on the cover and the blurb. So let's get started. Today I'll be covering multiple different genres. I have a historical fiction, a couple contemporaries, and a fantasy book, so just keep in mind that if you don't like a certain style of book, I will put timestamps in the comments for each genre's recommendation, so you can fast forward there and see if you'd like to read those. The first book that I have is The Square Root of Summer by Harriet, Reuter, Hapgood. If you follow me on Book Talk, you saw my review of this book, and I read this book in one sitting. I actually found this book at the dollar store on a whim. I decided to buy it because it looked like a story that I would tend to read. It is a typical romance. It takes place in like the coast of England, and it follows a girl named Margot as her grandfather has just died and her boyfriend broke up with her. And she goes through these things which she calls wormholes, which are actually just her having memories of what happened and going through grief cycles, but she chooses to not pay attention during those things and like cope with it. She just pretends as if she traveled back in time to experience this memory so it doesn't hurt when she does experience it. Margot's best friend was her grandpa, so this is something that she's really struggling with. And on top of her boyfriend breaking up with her and her grandpa dying, her best friend from childhood moves back, and it brings back a lot of emotions as she really liked him back then and now he's back. It is a typical teen dramatic romance kind of vibe. I think it would make a very good movie if you love books that you could see adapted into movies. I could definitely not put this down. Something about it just captivated my attention the entire time, whether it was like the German traditions they talked about in this book or the things that I didn't really understand because I'm an American reading a book that was based in England, but eventually you catch on. Margot is a really strong character and she goes through a lot, but she never is one of those characters that just feels sorry for herself, which is why she goes through these wormholes, is because she thinks that she's fine, and that blows up in her face in the end. But I definitely really enjoyed this book, so if you have not picked this book up, I would definitely recommend it. This book. If you are my friend, if you are a follower on my TikTok, if you've been around me at all when I've been talking about books, this is the book of the year for me right now. I know it did not come out this year, it came out 2 years ago, but I read it this year. And I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I pretty much bought this book for the cover because, are you kidding? Let's talk about this. But I bought this on barnesnoble.com when I first got my membership, and I absolutely loved this. I could not put this book down. It has such captivating characters. Amora Montara, the lead girl in this book, is phenomenal. She is a beast. She is strong. She's powerful. She is such a queen. I absolutely love her. She is definitely, if you're looking for your next book girl or book person to aspire to be, this is the book for that. Or if you're looking for your newest comfort book boy, I am in love with Bastian the pirate in this book. I had never read a pirate book before I bought this, and I was so pleasantly surprised. If you have not read a pirate book, I definitely recommend it. It's just kind of a different vibe than most fantasy books because there's magic in this, there's sirens in this, there's water, there's crazy pirates, there's magic systems that I've never even thought about, and just overall there's a selfless, strong, independent leader in this book named Amora who absolutely took my breath away. I aspire to be her every single day, and I absolutely love this book and I will never stop raving about it. It is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace, if I haven't already said that. It is a young adult fantasy and it is phenomenal. The next book I have is a young adult fiction book, or a young adult historical fiction book that I actually read for my book club at school. This follows Jo Kwon during the late 1800s, early 1900s, after slavery was illegalized, but it was still common for people of color to be servants during this time. and it follows her as in like her journey of being fired from the hat shop she loved to work at and beginning to go back to her town and like, or not her town, but her original job that she grew up as a child doing, while her I'm trying to explain it without giving away any spoilers, but it's like her caregiver, who is just like this old Chinese man, helps her get this job because he works at the stables there. She absolutely loves horses. It's a very, very historical fiction book. There's nothing contemporary at all. The writing is even like in the style of a historical fiction. There's no like modern day jokes or anything like that. But I really enjoyed this book because it gives you a really good insight, in my opinion, on the life of Asian Americans during this time period, the early 1900s, because they didn't really know their place because they were not white and they also at the same time were not black. So it was like, I don't know where I belong. And you see a lot of that in this story where certain people are like, well, she's not black, so at least it's not that bad, or she isn't white, so she can't sit at the front of the train kind of thing. But it's just really interesting to see the treatment of Asian Americans during this. If you are trying to get more Asian American content on your shelves because of the Asian American hate towards Asian Americans all across our country right now, I would definitely recommend The Downstairs Girl. It is also written by an Asian American author named Stacey Lee, and I absolutely loved this book. So if you're looking to get into more historical fiction, I would definitely start with this one. The next book is Frat Girl by Kylie Roach. I almost said Riley Coach. Kylie Roach. I read this book in like a day and a half. This book was really good. It is definitely also another one of your classic teen contemporary romance books, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. This book follows a girl named Cassie as she infiltrates a misogynistic fraternity as her scholarship project, but they don't know that she's like a feminist or that she is supposed to be there. They just assume that she's this big party girl that wants to be in a fraternity instead of a sorority, and they let her join. She does all the same things that the boys do, but they continuously make misogynistic jokes about the fact that she's a woman. She's consistently questioning herself on whether she's too girly that they're going to sexualize her or objectify her, or if she's too manly that they're not going to see her as a girl, because the whole point of her project is for there to be a feminine figure infiltrating a fraternity house. The characters in this book are really strong. She has a best friend named Alex who gives me the same vibe as like Steph in After, or I'm just trying to think of like the edgy best friend, if you know what I'm saying, like the kind of girl that like gets you out there even when you don't want to be out there. That's definitely the vibe that Alex gave me in this book. She also is in a relationship towards the end of the book. It is a friends to lovers book, but I would say the relationship or the romance of this book is not a very key part in it. It's just a small minuscule part in her like project that kind of goes awry. But I would say overall this is like a very good book if you're a feminist like me, if you want to read something that is empowering to women or that kind of looks at fraternities in a different light. I know obviously this isn't like a true book and not every fraternity is like this, but the idea that someone could change the mind of someone who is extremely misogynistic is crazy cool, and I really liked this book. The last book I want to talk about is Open Road Summer by Emery Lord. This is actually the my last read. But it's also the first book I read by Emery Lord. I know she also wrote When We Collided, which is a pretty popular contemporary, but this is a contemporary romance, young adult contemporary, and it is actually really good. I picked this book up not really expecting much out of it, just like an easy read, quick romance. I do that a lot. You'll see that throughout this series of videos I'm gonna make of books that you should read. I'm kind of just like the easygoing, like I love high fantasy books, but sometimes I need to take a break, and this is a book that I take a break with. This book follows a girl named Reagan. I read too many books, I couldn't remember her name. Follows a girl named Reagan as she tours with her best friend Lila Montgomery, or to her, she is Dee, as they go on tour for her country music album. And this book, if you like Taylor Swift, this is the book for you. This book follows Lila Montgomery, and she is literally Taylor Swift. Like, she is like written as a stereotypical country singer. She writes songs about her breakup with her boyfriend, but she also writes extreme love songs about her boyfriend, the same situation that Taylor Swift is in. And she is idolized by little girls all over the country and is viewed as America's sweetheart. So think Taylor Swift era of her debut album to like Speak Now is what I would say this book is. I really enjoyed this book. This is like enemies to friends, friends to lovers, to enemies to lovers. That's the best way that I can explain it. That's how dramatic this book is. If you're a sucker for summer style books, summer fling romance, summer anything, this is the perfect book to get you in that mood. There's a carnival scene, there's a skinny dipping scene. I absolutely loved this book. It took me a little bit longer to read just because I wasn't as invested in the story as I may have been in the summertime at a different time, but maybe I'll pick it back up again in like July or August and try to read it again. I definitely recommend this book, and more people should be talking about it. Those are all the books that I have for you guys today. If you want to buy any of these, I'll have links down below, or just have the names and the authors in the description for you to find those yourself. I love all of these books, and I have never stopped recommending them to people when they ask me for my opinion on what books they should read next. If you have any suggestions down below for books that you think deserve more hype, comment them down below and I may put them in the next video. This is going to be a series, and I may even become even more niche and try to do like books that deserve more hype, and then only do an entire video of just fantasy books or contemporary books or historical fiction books or period piece books, anything you guys want to see. If you like this style of video where there's multiple different genres, let me know in the comments. If you'd rather see an entire video of just one genre, let me know as well. I am so excited to see where this channel goes, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for always supporting me, and I can't wait to see where we go together. Have a great day, and I hope you read a book today.